friends, welcome to Creative Art. I am Nilima and in today's tutorial we are going to make these two beautiful glittering resin trays. This time I have placed the recently made candles on the resin tray and this is how beautiful and glittering these trays look. Both the trays are made using same resin and same glitters. The only difference is of color. For this one we have used white and for this one we have used black. Resin trays have multiple purpose. You can either use it for decoration like I do, or you can make daily use of it by placing your watch, jewelry, perfume, even your house keys on it. Once resin is fully cured, it can be used for food grade purposes. So you can also place pastries and cupcake on these trays to serve for evening snacks, cookies with some tea. The best thing about resin tray is they are washable, unbreakable, and they can be multi-purposely used. So friends, do watch the complete tutorial to make these beautiful resin trays for yourself so you can use them in your daily life. And friends, do subscribe to Creative Art for more creative art tutorial and do press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates on a recent art form. Now let's check out all the materials we are going to need to make this beautiful resin tray. First of all, we are going to need Expo Art resin, which comes in two parts, which is clear and hardener, and it is from Little Birdie. This is one of the best resins to use because of two main reasons that I like. The first is it has an auto bubble release formula, and the second is that once this resin is fully cured, it is said to be food grade. That means you can place any food items directly on this resin plate and it won't react with your food items. Next, to measure the resin, we are going to need electronic compass scale. To measure a greater amount of resin, this is really important. And in case you're going to measure resin in small amount, you can also use scooping spoons, and the ratio for this resin is 2:1. That means 2 parts of clear resin and 1 part of hardener. Next, for pouring and mixing the resin, you can either use paper cups like these, or else you can also use silicone cups like this and silicone spatula. So these things are reusable, and from the time I have bought them, I use them again and again in all of my resin arts. Next is the silicone mat that I have bought from ItsyBitsy. It is really helpful in doing resin art, and I love to use it each time I'm doing a resin art because this mat makes the cleaning part really easy and it is reusable. So you can use it in every resin art you do. Next, for mold, I'm going to use a tray mold which looks like this. And for pigments, this time I'm not going to use any of the colors. I'm simply going to use some fairy sparkle glitters. We do get them in so many different shades. Here I have hot pink, rogue, plum, and this one is fairy dust glitter. This is gold. So there are 3 to 4 different types of glitters available by Little Birdie, and this time we are going to use the fairy sparkle, and I love to use this white rainbow color fairy sparkle. These are the medium size glitters that you'll get. And next one is mica powder. I'm going to use pearly dust because I'm looking forward to make a little transparent but white glittering tray for myself. List of all these materials will be mentioned in the description box below with their links from where you can buy them online. And friends, if you use my code, which is NILIMA5, NILIMA5, you will get an additional 5% off from itsybitsy.in. Now let's start the DIY, friends. Let's start the setup. First, we are going to need our measuring scale, silicone spatula and silicone container, resin, the glitters I'm going to use for first part, and the clean mold. So let's start mixing resin. First, switch on your electronic compass, place the silicone cup, press the tare button. We are going to use Expo Art resin, which has 2 parts, clear and hardener, which is from Little Birdie. I always advise you to wear gloves while doing resin art. So I'm going to pour 50 grams of clear resin, and as this resin is 2:1 ratio, so we have to pour half the amount of resins. Here I'm adding more 25 grams of hardener, which in total will make it 75 grams. Now in total we have got here 75 grams of resin. So switch off the electronic device, keep it aside, close the hardener and resin cap. So the Expo Art resin is to be used in 2:1 ratio, and that is why we have used 50 grams of clear resin and 25 grams of hardener, which is 2:1 ratio. Let's mix it for at least 5 minutes. After mixing the resin, I'm going to add these beautiful white color fairy dust glitters. These are quite some big size glitters and I love using them in resin art. I think this quantity is enough. Now let's mix this resin with glitters. This is how it looks. Beautiful, right? And now before pouring, I'm just going to check whether my mold is completely clean or not. In case your mold is completely not clean, use a sticky tape like this one and pick up any dust particles or hair you see on it. Okay, I'll gently mix it once again before pouring and it is ready. It looks beautiful. So for the first filling, I have just filled the border side, as you can see this clearly. I'm still remaining with half of the resin, so let's do our second part, in which I'm going to mix a little bit of mica pigment, that is also called metallic pigment. Divide it in another cup. And then I'll keep the clear one aside. And I'm going to take a little bit of white metallic pigment and mix it in cup. Add more resin. And now I'm going to pour this mixture from the surrounding. This. Mix the remaining clear resin and let it flow. I'm going to scrape down all the remaining pigment and place it where it is needed. Now using the spatula, gently spreading out the pigment. And now finally, I'm going to use the gas torch and pop out all the bubbles from top and let it rest and set for at least 24 hours, and then I'll show you how does it look. Okay? It's finally been 24 hours, so let me check. Yes, resin is completely cured. But before unmolding this resin, I want to show you one cool feature of this silicone cup. You see, just before 24 hours, we have mixed our resin in this silicone cup. And this is how it can be cleaned. Use a spatula or a palette knife like this one, and your remaining resin will come out easily from the silicone mold. I like to use a flat palette knife to remove the side resins, and you can clearly see this is the residue. After cleaning all the small particles of resin from the silicone mold, I'll be washing it once with soap water, then let it get dry completely. Use a paper towel to wipe out any other dust particles and it will be ready for the next use. The same thing goes with this kind of silicone spatula. You can gently remove the excess resin which is on the spatula like this, in this way. It's clean. Wash it once, let it get dry and then reuse it. Next, here comes the mat. I love using this mat for resin art because any excess resin which falls on the ground instead of this mat is so difficult to take out. But in case the resin is on the mat, you just have to peel the excess resin from the silicone mat, and this is how all the chips will come out. You'll get some residue chips like this. Just wipe it once with a wet cloth and it will be ready for the next use. So these are some of my highly recommended things to use for resin art if you are a resin artist or you regularly do a resin art. It's a very convenient and nice thing to use a reusable things. So now let's unmold the resin tray. from sides. The silicone mold first. Now I'll just turn it over. And wow, it's so beautiful. Wow, I can just clearly see all the glitters on the top part, which is making it look so much beautiful and shiny. And the effect that we have got is on the back side of the mica pigment that we have used, but from the front side it's only half visible. Mostly it's all glitters, but from the front side it's mostly the glitter part which is visible. The mica white part is only visible from the sides and a little shading if I go closer. But finally, this is how beautiful it looks. I'm excited to use it. Now let's give it a final touch up, that is to clean the sharp edges, and for that I like to use a cutter like this. Just place it in this way and clean the sharp edges. This will be smoother when you touch. Now in the same way I have mixed some more resin, and this time I have mixed about 120 grams of resin that I'm going to divide in a small paper cup. And I'm going to add the same multicolor glitters that I have used for white tray. Using spatula, I'll give it a nice mix and pour it in the side of tray. I also want to pour it in the middle, so let's mix some more. Using spatula, I'll spread it all around. Using torch, I'll pop out the bubbles. Now in a separate container, I'm going to add black color pigment. Just a little would be enough, and mix it nicely using a spatula. I'm going to pour it from the corners and pour some extra resin in the middle. Now I'm going to use my light torch and blow out all the bubbles from the sides. I think this much is enough. So now we will let it rest, and I'll show it to you tomorrow how does it looks after 24 hours of curing. Okay? Now it's finally been 24 hours and the resin is completely cured. So let's remove it from the silicone mold. Start by pulling out the side covers from one side. And once the sides are removed, try to pull the silicone mold from one side. And then from one side, start removing the mold in this way. And wow, it came out so beautiful. I'll place both of them side by side. This is the white one and this is the black one. Both are made with the same resin, with the same glitters. Just for this one I have used white pigment, and for this one we have used black pigment. Anytime there is a resin tray, I always keep extra mold aside so I can pour any extra resin in it. And this is the piece I have got this time. A beautiful small round coaster full of glitters. Now friends, I'll decorate them and show you how they look. And finally, I'm displaying these trays with two different purposes that I'm going to make use of. I'm going to use these two beautiful resin trays for 2 to 3 different purposes. First is my everyday use of perfume and watch that I keep on my desk, and this time I will be having this beautiful tray set on its place. Next is this beautiful set of 2 candles that I have recently made, and I'm going to use this tray as a candle holder so the melting candle doesn't make a mess. Resin trays can also be used for serving and displaying food like cookies, cupcakes, and pastries, as once resin is fully cured, it is said to be food grade. So friends, do give it a try, make it yourself, and do tell me in the comments below what do you think about this tutorial. And if you do like my tutorials friends, please do like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching.